Hey, audit, compliance, and fraud friends. Question for you. Have you ever trusted someone who just let you down? I mean, they stabbed the proverbial knife in your back and you missed all the warning signs. If that sounds like you, that's what we're going to talk about today. You ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, guys. So listen, you heard the intro. Have you ever had someone just kind of put the knife in your back and you missed the warning signs? That's my question for you all. So let me know in the chat on LinkedIn or on YouTube. But we're also going to ask Christine.
Hi. Your not so special guest is back again.
Christine, have you ever had anyone, well, put the proverbial knife in your back and then you just missed all of the warning signs? Has that ever happened to you?
Probably when I was younger. Yeah. But I think I knew something was going on. It's just, it took something big for me to all of a sudden be like, why didn't I see this coming? I should have known.
Yeah. I think oftentimes the busier we get, the more apt we are to miss those red flags because we're busy doing things like working or trying to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of, and we just somehow miss those warning signs.
Well, and I think us as auditors too, we're always looking for that stuff. So like I said, as I've gotten older, been in this career longer, I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of judgment when it comes to letting new people in my life.
Right. I mean, you have to kind of be protective of the people that you allow into your space. Right. So listen, for those of you listening, Stephanie, I know you got something to say. Stephanie says hi. She's here. Thomas is over on YouTube. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate you being there. And he's Revision Management Consulting LLC today on YouTube.
So proud of you.
Right? Clarence is here. Greetings. Clarence says he hopes all is well. Clarence, anybody ever put the knife in your back and you just missed the warning signs? Because Ursula has answered the question. She says, hi there. Pulled out that knife more than once. Yeah. So here's what I'm wondering. Why do you think you missed the warning signs, Ursula, if you had to pull the knife out? You know, you couldn't run before the knife got... All I can think about is like Friday the 13th with Jason, you know? Right.
I hope that wasn't a bad sound effect.
And you ever notice, though, on those movies, no matter how fast the person is running, the first time they trip and fall in the woods, he's right behind them and he's walking. Yeah. Now, Marsha's here from Montreal. She said it's cool there. And Clarence said, yes, sir, it's happened to him, but they won't ever get me again. What's that old saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, and I kick your butt.
Something along those lines.
That's not how it went.
Shame on me? Wow. I mean, I hope that once you get stabbed in the back, it doesn't happen again. But I think it also depends on, I mean, not every manipulation tactic is the same every single time. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, we try our best to protect our time, right? Our energy, our money, but life happens and we just get so busy just doing things. So did I tell you recently someone stole my credit card number. Did I tell you that?
You mentioned it last week. You
Oh,
still
did
don't
I?
have it?
That's a whole nother story altogether, right? But it's painful the things you cannot do when you don't have your card, no access to your money. And then, too, if you think about it, it is usually stolen from a place that you've trusted.
Mm-hmm.
You've either gone to a restaurant and a server has skimmed it, or there's a skimmer sitting at a gas station pump or something like that. And so when we have a high level of trust in people and we don't look for the red flags, oftentimes we can get scammed.
We just notice it when it happens, even if it's only $20.
I know. No, even if
Or at
it's
least
only
hopefully.
right. So what if you had $16 million stolen from you? Would you notice that?
I gotta have 16 million first, but I would hope I did. I mean, I guess if I had here's the thing. If I had $16 million, I'm probably not the one that's handling my money either. Do you know what like, I'm not sitting there and balancing a checkbook every day or logging into my
Yeah.
online banking. I'm probably paying
Yeah,
somebody to pay my bills.
that would be my thought. You're probably doing that thing that helped you make the 16 million.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I get that. Wow. So I'm not gonna belabor the point anymore today. Let's just talk about this. You guys ready to hear about the $16 million theft? You ready to hear about the $16 million theft?
I'm sitting here thinking by you saying 16 million, I'm guessing there's somebody that's on the podcast right now that can guess the story that we're talking about.
And that's why I said it like that. That's kind of what I was guessing too. Oh, yeah, Stephanie's on it. Like Kelly always says, always
Mm.
get the mail, open up the bank statements and see what's happening.
Kelly would be flipping out about this story because there's another thing associated with something she does not like.
Yeah. And well, this is also still another one. Trust is not a control.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and this, I mean, yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Here's the other thing. Well, let's just get into it and then I get into the other thing.
Okay.
So, LA Dodgers star baseball pitcher Shohei Ohtani. He is deaf, hearing impaired, whatever the politically correct term is for it nowadays. His ex-interpreter is charged with stealing $16 million from him.
I don't, are you saying that he's deaf? Is he? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, it was a bad joke.
Oh, oh, wow. That went over my head. Holy cow. I was like, my husband was telling me about this. He just doesn't speak English and he doesn't want to learn the language
right.
because he plans on playing baseball and then moving back home.
Yeah, it was a really bad joke.
Oh,
but no.
wow. My brain glitched. I'm
So
sorry.
he I was gonna see if anybody else in the audience was gonna say, wait a minute, he's deaf? But you said it first because I didn't warn you this time. I never warn you about the stupid things that I'm gonna say. But
Because I'm just like, did I miss that in one of the stories?
no, I forgot to warn you this time. but his ex-interpreter stole $16 million from him. But here's the interesting thing though. And this is why I was asking the questions. Why did we miss red flags if something like that has ever happened to us? He recently signed a $700 million deal Now, granted, that was it over 10 years? I think it's over 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So 10 years, $700 million deal. To your point, he wasn't doing his own books. Um, and neither was his interpreter, technically, right?
But, and I could be wrong because I'm trying to remember, my husband talked about, he's an ESPN guru. Would he notice though? Because I'm pretty sure that my husband was saying he was deferring the majority of that money to get paid when his career was done. And he was thinking he was doing it so he could avoid potential tax implications on that amount of money. I'd have
Yeah.
to look that up. But still, even if he was getting 10% of that, I don't know.
He was trying to be financially savvy with the money.
Mm-hmm.
And his interpreter, they had a very close relationship because, again, he did not speak English. And so his interpreter was his intermediary, basically translating a lot of things for him. And so his interpreter had access to the bank accounts and was able to siphon quite a bit of money. And yeah, Stephanie says, yeah, he used it for gambling. So let's talk about that first. Because he used the money for gambling, he could have gotten the baseball star in trouble. So they investigated him and the baseball star and found out that the baseball star had nothing to do with the gambling, because you're not supposed to gamble if you're playing a sport and getting paid for it, because obviously you could fix games, which goes to Thomas's point. Stole 16 million, huh? Pete Rose has thoughts about this, I bet. And for those of you who don't know, Pete Rose was a very good Hall of Fame baseball player who was accused of making bets.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. What do you think, Christine?
I mean, I know, like, I feel bad for Otani. I really do, because you are in a completely different country. People are talking to you. You don't know what they're saying. He did put a lot of trust in this individual, and I'm sure a lot of the financial aspects of things that Otani had his hands in, his interpreter was there to help him. So his interpreter knew exactly what he needed to do, who he needed to call. And unless it was an in-person thing, why would anybody on the phone doubt it? Because everybody, I mean, they're going to know who he is. He's a huge, known athlete. And they'll already know, okay, yep, he's got his interpreter. The interpreter that was paid for by the Dodgers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but then I kind of sit here and I'm like, I'm wondering if his interpreter's going, I'm making $80,000 a year. Walking around this guy making millions a year.
So to your point, I was trying to find out how much the interpreter was making, and I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I couldn't find it. I'm betting he was making decent six-figure salary.
In the article, it was 80,000 a year.
It was 80. Oh, it was in the article I sent. Okay, my bad.
No, I found it in a different one.
But okay.
He essentially was getting himself into this gambling debt, and his $80,000 a year salary wasn't cutting it to try and pay back.
Yeah. Well, the interpreter had been with Otani since 2018. And so at this point, Otani probably thought that he could trust him. But listen to what he had done. He made around 19,000 wagers between December of 2021 and January of 2024. That's nearly 25 bets a day on average. And the wagers range roughly between $10. That's a small bet, right? All the way up to $160,000, averaging around $12,000 per bet.
Well, and it's you lose. What are you going to do? I mean, it's double down, double down. And of course, like I said, Kelly's, I mean, she absolutely hates gambling. I'm actually kind of surprised that her and Joe got that picture together when they were at the casino.
Right? Right,
Right.
right.
But
Now, oh,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
they double down to try to get money back. And that's how I think his hole just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yep. Now, Stephanie says they were about to boot him from the league. Yeah. Until they did the investigation and realized that he had absolutely nothing to do with it. And Brent makes a decent point. Brent says, simple truth is if you make money, you pay taxes. Only so much that can be done to minimize your taxes. And it's better to have 2/3 left over after taxes than none at all.
Mm-hmm.
And Marsha brings up a really good point. That's not gambling anymore. That's a job to be betting so much. But here's the thing, you all. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. He must have been a horrible gambler. Let me explain to you why I say that. He actually won $142 million. He won $142 million gambling.
When?
Unfortunately, he lost 183 million.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know. We see it though, like, how can I explain it? So, like, we see other famous people that make it known that they gamble, like Dana White is an example. Like, he'll sit there and post how much he lost in a weekend in Vegas. Um, and it's always one of those things. I don't remember who told me it, but like, whenever you see somebody winning from gambling or at the casino, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they won that much. But you also don't know how much they've lost over time.
There you go. There you go. Well, and then too, mm, when it's not your money, it's easy to make the big bets.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And so with him losing this much, I'm assuming or I'm guessing that the 80,000 must have been enough for him to live on. Because here's my speculation. I think the 80,000 was his salary, but I think he got comped other things too, because baseball players have a rigorous schedule. And so he was probably getting paid to stay in nice hotel rooms. And if it were me, I wouldn't have an apartment during those time periods when I was traveling so much. But okay. So I'm guessing that he had other perks that helped make up some additional income for the $80,000 salary. But he lost 183 million dollars. He won 142 million.
So I'm wondering then, is he still on the hook with his bookie?
He is still on the hook with his bookie. As a matter of fact, his bookie was trying to call him, according to a lot of documentation. His bookie kept calling him. For example, one Friday he called him and said, "Hey, it's 2 o'clock on Friday. I don't know why you're not returning my calls. I'm here at Newport Beach and I see victim A, our baseball player, walking his dog." This was on November 17th of 2023. The bookie then said to him, "I'm just going to walk up to him and ask him, how do I get in touch with you since you are not responding? Please call me back immediately." You see, initially, he told his bookie that Otani knew that he was gambling and that Otani was okay with him gambling. And so his bookie then threatened to walk up to Otani directly and tell him, "Hey, look, your guy owes me money."
In which Otani did not know.
Otani did not know. And so our fraudster told the bookie, wait a minute, slow down. Don't contact him. As a matter of fact, when he finally got in touch with him, the bookie said something to the effect of, "Well, it's not like you're stealing from him." And our fraudster actually said, "Well, actually, I am, and it's over for me."
So he knew.
The
Because I'm
bookie
wondering
didn't know.
how it came out. How do you know what I'm saying? Because when this happened, didn't like Otani didn't know anything. Like he didn't even know about the money missing yet.
Right. Otani did not know. The bookie did not know either because the fraudster was telling the bookie that Otani did know, and that's how he was able to continue increasing his credit line. He kept telling the bookie, "You know, I'm good for it. My boss will make sure that I get the money." And then when the bookie finally said, "Look, you're not responding to me anymore. I'm sitting here at the beach and I see your boss." That's when it kind of all unraveled because the bookie was like, "Hey, your boss knows, so we're all good."
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the fraudster admitted and said, "No, he doesn't know. I've been stealing from him. It's over for me now."
Okay. So I think I know how they found it. I think it was the federal government. I didn't know if you're ready for us to talk about this on how it came about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, so I think it has something to do with, this is my speculation because it doesn't significantly call it out, but it was in relation to a federal investigation linking Matthew Boyer, the bookie, because he's currently under federal investigation. I don't know what for. I don't know if it's tax evasion or what, but it's got to be something with his bookie business. Does it make you wonder if like Boyer mentioned it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So here's my speculation. I'm right there with you, but to add to it, I think there's a convergence of a few things. I think Otani was being looked at for gambling, which he did not do.
Correct.
And then at the same time, I think the bookie was, again, just speculation, being investigated. So we do know that Otani was being investigated for gambling, which he didn't do it. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I think the bookie may have been investigating. They were investigating him as well. And then you kind of put two and two together when the interpreter admits to the bookie, "I have been stealing from him." And so now you have this game where who's going to rat out who? Are you going to get the bookie to rat out the interpreter, or like how is this going to go down? But either way, you've got an innocent man in the middle of all of this in Otani who's had money stolen from him on a regular and continuous basis. And which brings up a good point that Stephanie is asking. Does the league have any responsibility if they hired or recommended the interpreter?
Well, if we think about a little bit smaller scale, let's say one of my family members was in a nursing home and somebody that was employed there was stealing from them. Could I go after the nursing home?
You know, I
I mean,
think
could try.
I think if the nursing home had lax security, you probably could.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to prove that they weren't doing enough to actually secure those items that were stolen. And to that extent, how do you ensure that you're doing enough to protect the information, the money, and the data of one of your players when he's using an interpreter? And so the interpreter literally has to know everything: bank account numbers, government identification numbers, amounts in bank accounts, everything.
Yeah. I mean, because we hear about it, what? I've heard about it so many times. Agents of famous people embezzling money. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many. I mean, there's so many stories. What was Billy Joel, $90 million from his former manager. Alanis Morissette got scammed.
Yeah,
Dennis
that was
Rodman
what?
got scammed. Uh,
Yep.
her business manager was actually sentenced to 6 years in federal prison after 4.8 million.
Yeah. So they're saying that Otani is joining a long list of athletes and celebrities who've gotten scammed. And you're right, Alanis Morissette. So then there's Dennis Rodman, to the tune of about $5.8 million. His scammer was released early in 2023. Tim Duncan from the San Antonio Spurs. His scammer was ordered to pay 7.5 million in restitution. Uh, Mark Sanchez. Oh God, this is a big list.
And it's a lot of sports people. Like there's one that ends up listing 3 different accounts. There was 3 different NBA players.
Yeah.
And he actually got 20 years.
Wow.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know. But I guess that's what, I mean, I think it's one of those things too. I'm not sitting here saying you should trust everybody, but I think also if you have that antitrust with these people that are so close to you, probably know you like your teammates do, they're in your lives all the time. If you are so paranoid that somebody's going to end up ripping you off or scamming you, you drive yourself nuts if you worried about that every day. Thinking, you know what I'm saying? Like if you sat there and thought that these people are only helping me out, they don't care about me, it's all about my money, I think that would be that'd be a sad way to live. So I can
Yeah.
understand why they trust, but you should
Well, and
verify.
think about this. Think about this in this particular case. So at a recent press conference, he's talking through his new interpreter or a new interpreter. I don't know if that one has been permanently assigned to him yet. And he said, "I'm very saddened and shocked someone whom I trusted has done this."
Mhm.
And he says that he had been stealing money from his account and telling lies. And then he reiterated, and I quote, "I've never bet on sports or have willfully sent money to the bookmaker." Because at some point, the fraudster is going back and forth saying, yeah, he covered my bets. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. So he's saying, no, I did not cover any of his bets. And he's saying all of this through a new interpreter, someone now that he has to try and gain trust in when trust has been broken so badly. And again, like Kelly says, trust is not a control. But at some point, if you don't want to learn English, you've got to have an interpreter here
Yeah.
with you. So he's got to put some other control measures in place. Like he's got to check his bank accounts, look at things that are going out, large sums of money that are going out, look at them. And in his case, he's probably going to have to use either a local accounting firm here in the States or one in his home country that understands English to actually do some reconciliations on a regular basis, whether that's monthly or weekly or quarterly. But he's got to get some reconciliations done if he doesn't want to get scammed again. Now, it also says that the way that this was caught, there were investigations from a broader probe of illegal sports bookmaking from organizations operating in Southern California, and they were laundering the proceeds through casinos in Las Vegas. So that's kind of how they found this.
Yeah. It's just that's a lot of money.
Well, and Leslie, she has a good point. The lesson here: don't let one person know too much of your information and your financials. But here's the problem: how does he not if he has to have an interpreter because he doesn't speak English? Somebody is going to have to know, unless they do something like hire multiple interpreters and maybe rotate. But then you run the risk of now more than one person knowing all of your personal identifying information.
And I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, we could always sit here and be like, well, rotating that, everything else. He could have tried finding a banking relationship where there was somebody working there that was, multilingual that would have that. But I mean, being able to find somebody specializing in English and his language that's bilingual. I mean, I think that'd be really hard.
I think so too. Now, if you're just joining us, today we're talking about LA Dodgers pitcher Shohei Ohtani, who had several $1 million stolen from him from his interpreter. He is by far one of the best baseball pitchers around, and he just signed a 10-year, $700 million deal. The only problem is he doesn't speak English. And so the Los Angeles Dodgers hired an interpreter for him. That interpreter made a lot of bets, gambling, stealing Ohtani's money. So many bets, in fact, that they're saying about 19,000 wagers, which averaged about 25 bets per day. They range from $10 to $160,000, averaging about $12,800 per bet. Now get this. He didn't always lose money. He won $142 million, which I know you're thinking, that's a lot of money. He could have just stopped gambling, but he lost $183 million, which brought him to a net loss.
I just feel bad for him. I do. Because they ended up asking him that day. Ohtani was asked who in his life has helped him the most off the baseball field. He goes, that would be, I think it's Ipe, of course.
Yeah, the interpreter. Yeah. There's a high level of trust here, and I think it still goes back to what we say almost every episode. Trust is not a control, and oftentimes it's the person that's the closest to you that will dig the knife in your back the quickest and the furthest. And so Marsha's saying Ohtani must learn English. He's earning so much money, he can afford it. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too, Marsha. But I don't know if it's necessarily the money, but rather the time. But they do say the quickest way to learn another language is through immersion. And so if he's over here, I mean, just for the sake of your money, this is huge. This is huge, the amount of money that he was able to get from him. But again, I think, having someone else look at the books, especially large transactions, periodically have someone else go in and reconcile. Hey, did you spend money on this? Did you spend money on that? But based on his retirement strategy, he could actually pull out a small sum and have that diverted to his spending account and just work from that and have the rest of it go into the other retirement accounts that he wanted to save for. I think that there are other things that can be done because this is sad. It's really, really sad because the repercussions do flow downhill. His career could have been over if they could have implicated him in gambling, and he's saying he did not. And I actually believe him, right? This is huge.
So Ohtani did respond about why he doesn't learn it, because I know it was a while ago. This is my husband loves talking to me about ESPN stuff. So Stephen A. Smith kind of essentially called him out and thought he was ruining the game because he wouldn't learn English. And so he quoted, he explained he would speak English if he could. Of course I want to. Obviously, it wouldn't hurt to be able to speak English. There would only be positive things to come from that. But I came here to play baseball. And at the end of the day, and I felt like my play on the field could be my way of communicating with the people and with the fans. That's all I really took from that in the end.
Yeah. And I get that. And hopefully now, though, this lights a fire under him to maybe try so that he can understand his own affairs. Because if you really look at it, the real conversation is not necessarily, why don't you learn English? It really is, why don't we be better to the people that are in our presence? Good God, I'm just going to stop there.
Well, because I sit here and think, like, him not speaking English is not the reason why he got scammed.
Right.
He could have gotten scammed by his agent. He could have gotten scammed by anybody else that was close to him as far as it. Essentially, what it was is his need for the interpreter, his inability to speak English and conduct a lot of things on his own. All that was is the line of opportunity for this person to scam him. It was the opportunity. And no, he didn't think, probably nobody really thought about this is an opportunity for potential fraud and scamming to go on. What do we need to do to cut the risk for that occurring because of that opportunity? It was just a
I'm with you
different
on that.
form of opportunity for somebody.
Yep. And
And
now
he
Leslie's
also needed it. He was in the situational thing. He was under duress.
absolutely. Leslie says if I had his money and didn't speak the language, I would hire as many tutors as needed to teach me how to teach the new language. And then Daniel says, or perhaps get someone independent to regularly review the accounts. Yeah. And then Leslie says again, if I had his money, I would hire tutors to teach. Oh, I would feel disconnected. That is a big part. You would feel disconnected. But think about this though. For the athletes who are really top tier, top 10%, top 5%, a lot of them get in the zone and this is all they do. They wake up. Remember the stories about Kobe Bryant? Players would say they would come into the gym thinking that they were early. It would be 6 a.m. and Kobe would
And he was
already be
already
there.
there.
Yeah. And then when
And
they would leave and they were tired, they said that Kobe would look really, really tired, but he would stay because he needed to be the last one out. For those in that top 1%, they eat, sleep, and breathe it to where this is all they think about. Now, if the Dodgers gave him a $700 million contract, I can assume that he was probably within that top 1%.
Well, and baseball's the longest season out of all professional sports. What, they only have off, like 2-3 months? Is essentially what it is. And how often are they staying in the same city? Because how many games do they play a week? Why do I
They
think they
play
play
a
like
lot.
two or three a week? Somebody can correct me
Yeah.
on that. But yeah.
But back to your point though, him not speaking English is not the reason he was swindled. It's, it was a part of it because he had an interpreter. But even if he did speak English, it could have been an accountant. Now, don't get me wrong. He probably should learn. Don't get me wrong. Because Leslie's last point was really the big one. It's got to feel disconnected to be in a country where you had no idea what other people were saying. That's got to be, a different kind of feeling. But again, if he was that top 1% player, which for all practical accounts, that's what I've heard. I've heard that he's really good and he's just focused. You lose sight of certain things and your controls kind of are lax at that point. Yeah, Leslie, I'm with you. I didn't think that that's what you were doing. Leslie said, by the way, I'm in no way trying to blame the victim. He is a victim. And it is so very sad that he was swindled. Nah, I'm with you. And I didn't think that that's what you were doing. I was just trying to add
I
a
wasn't
little bit of
thinking it that
perspective.
way.
Yeah,
No,
me
I
either. And I don't
wasn't.
think anybody else did. Oh, now here we go. Thomas has got the perspective. They average 6 to 7 games per week, 162 total games a season, plus the playoffs if they make it. So yeah, I mean,
and he's a pitcher.
Right. Which means that he is literally on the mound whenever they are on the field, right? So he's not in
I'm
the
sure they've
dugout
got
kind of playing around.
I'm sure Thomas would know this. I'm guessing they've got relief pitchers, so he probably starts, and I'm guessing he ends the game so that he can get. Don't they get credited based on when they start and when they stop? Thomas, something to that. I don't know. Maybe I should read up on baseball.
Yeah, right. And then Thomas brings up another point. He is a designated hitter. He's not pitching too. So yeah, he is always there. He's always doing something actively. So he's playing both sides. So yeah.
Now you know why he got $700 million for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because for that, I'm guessing the be that they think that's if they got him for 10 years, that's going to be peanuts if they get somebody like that coming to fill their stands.
Right. Well, and I think this brings up the bigger question for sports as a whole. They all have their agents, then you still have, your accountants to the stars and all that good stuff. That's a thing.
Mhm.
Should we have a better control system for those who play sports? Because, just those who are high earners in the entertainment and athletic industry, because this happens quite a bit now.
Well, I think what happens, well, one way we could end up reducing this and hopefully eventually we're seeing technology in the banking industry changing all the time. So
Yeah.
I think as in previous years, like what happened to Billy Joel, that was in 1989, right? He's out traveling, right? He doesn't have his phone and doing online banking to do all of his stuff. So he probably had his manager do all that stuff for him, pay his bills, make sure all that stuff is done. And a lot of these sports athletes and stars and everything else, they travel a whole lot. And like I said, I can't imagine, not saying she doesn't, but like I can't imagine Taylor Swift sitting down at a computer and going, gonna balance my checkbook today, see what came in, see what came out. Oh, I got to remote deposit my royalties for this month. Like they probably pay accountants and stuff to do that. But then I sit here and go, it's not like you're just going to be getting any accounting firm. You're probably paying a specific 1 or 2 or 3 people to do it because you don't want anybody else to know what your financial situation is.
Right.
The less people you
Well,
have
and at the
touching
same
your books,
time,
the less they talk.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and the thing too, you probably have an accountant, but then you also have some sort of investment slash financial advisor, and those two have to work hand in hand, and they have different functions. And now Thomas brings up a good point. NBA and NFL, they do provide training for personal finances for rookies. No clue if the MLB does, but here's the thing: even if you get the training as a rookie and maybe first 5 years, when that money starts rolling in, oftentimes you forget that training if it's not reinforced.
Well, and I did have some experience working at one financial institution that I'm trying to say this without divulging any information. Not my employer. This was like decades ago. That it was a company that handled the payments for their loans. So it was literally like if we were calling to contact about something, we didn't talk to them.
Right.
We talked to this company that specifically dealt with sports athletes and their finances. Now, you would hope that those companies would have the proper controls in place to prevent that sort of stuff from happening.
Yeah. Well, and then we put it into perspective too. 700 million over 10 years is $70 million a year. And the fraud occurred over a 3-year time period. And so that probably was just a drop in the bucket for him when it came to all of his money. And a lot of times too, when you think about it, you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? When food, clothing, and shelter is taken care of, sometimes we don't worry about the rest. But if we're worrying about food, clothing, and shelter, we're going to be looking at it and watching it like a hawk. So if you're on the road traveling that much and you don't have to worry about food, clothing, and shelter, you're not really looking in depth at the rest of your money until something happens.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I guess it's
mean,
another case of trust is not a control.
trust is not a control. I'm just sitting here thinking he's never going to get that money back. You could put a $16 million restitution on him. I mean, he's going to see such a small percentage of that come back and that's even depending upon if or how much time he serves.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and really, in this case, the money probably doesn't hurt him, but it's definitely the principle. And then what is it going to take to build back trust? First, trust in people in general, then trust in the MLB because they hired the guy, and then trust in any type of financial advisors, and then on a bigger scale too, trust in American citizens. Like we brought him over here to play baseball, and he was robbed blind. I think I'm not sure. I don't think his interpreter was an American citizen either. I don't think. I couldn't find that information, um but still, he came to this country. And so now, by association, in his head, all of these things kind of go together.
Yep. I was trying to look.
Yeah,
Trust
I'm
but
with you, Daniel. Trust but verify. Here's the thing: if you got to verify, did you trust to begin with? I, I think we have to have a healthy level of skepticism. I mean, even if you don't trust somebody you don't know, I don't expect you to trust me when you don't know me. Like literally,
Mhm.
I wouldn't get offended by that. You don't know
Right.
me. You shouldn't trust me.
Right. Yeah, there shouldn't, well, and that's the thing. I feel like sometimes when we see it as auditors, when you're questioning, you ask questions. There are sometimes people do get offended because it's one of those things like, are you testing me? Do you think I not know what I'm doing? And it's like, no, we're questioning for an understanding and a level of understanding of where you are at and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I don't get offended. Ask away. Just
mm-mm.
ask away.
Right. No, I don't either. I mean, as long as you're not being like derogatory, like don't ask me like why were you stupid and made that mistake? I don't know.
So
I was stupid and made a mistake.
so
Wasn't
here's
paying.
some additional things related to this case. The alleged fraud also spanned into the lucrative memorabilia market. So the investigators seized roughly 1,000 collectible baseball cards, including cards for Yogi Berra. So that's worth a lot. And discovered approximately $325,000 in transactions to online retailers from January to March. So they believe that I knew I was going to mess the name up, that he purchased the cards from the sites with the intent to resell them later.
Ooh. Mm. So he was born in Japan, but he was raised in Southern California from the time he was 7. So
Ah,
he's a U.S.
okay.
citizen.
There you go. There you go. And so Marsha's saying, yeah, reputation of the MLB tarnished because of the addiction of one interpreter. I'm hoping it's not tarnished because of one interpreter, but I will say it's a huge stain, especially when you look at there are a lot of players that come over here to play in the MLB from other countries, Japan and Dominican Republic, Cuba. There are a lot of players from those countries that come over here to play ball, and kudos to them for being able to command as much money as they're able to get. And I think I'm kind of disappointed that we, you know, we made our country look bad by doing something like that. But such is life. We can't control every citizen in our country, right? You're bound to have some bad apples.
I think it'll take some time. It'll end up blowing over. It's no different. Look at the time that the MLB was dealing with the steroid era.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that seemed like it was every week. And I felt like that feels like that lasted a long time.
it did. It
And then,
lasted a very long time.
and I think all sports organizations deal with it. I mean, the NFL has dealt with quite a few dealings, like with domestic abuse and stuff. They had that whole era where it seemed like there was people coming out with that. Um, NBA has dealt with things every once in a while. So
Well, and then the NFL just had that guy from that stole money from the Jacksonville Jaguars,
yeah,
and he was the back office finance guy, whatever he was. He was accounting, finance, CFO, all of the above. And
they're
that's the
one
other thing.
accountant.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Those operations run kind of lean on the back office because a lot of the money is big money and some of it is just, paid out in chunks. But and Stephanie says sounds like he had a bad illness with gambling. It really
Yeah.
did sound like Marsha said the US government is robbing us too. Oh man.
That comes up every April. That's an
Oh,
ongoing story.
oh God.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it is. I mean, his bookie wasn't going to turn him over into, gambler's addiction. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like the people that knew he was gambling were going to sit here and go, "Hey, you have a problem." Because the one person that knew he was doing it was making the money. He was making money off of them.
Yeah, because here's the other thing I thought about too. So with the losses being what they were, I wonder what else did he buy from his winnings when he was winning. He bought memorabilia, but there's they didn't say that they seized a nice big house or fancy cars or anything, which goes back to the point Stephanie and Marsha were making. He has a problem. Like he has an
Mhm.
addiction problem, most likely.
Well, when is he going up for trial? Because I'm guessing what's probably it's making me wonder if the prosecution's probably gonna be going in a little bit heavier and like his bank statements and everything else. But it almost seems like the way that it was happening was it was being like wired out directly from Otani's account to the bookie.
Yeah.
And that's why they thought Otani had initially was the one betting on it. And then they did state that Ipe was like when he would call the bank, he was pretending to be Otani. So
Wait a
he
minute.
wasn't he?
So he was ordered to get gambling addiction treatment. A judge ordered him to get gambling addiction treatment.
When was that? Like, I'm guessing it's not over with. Has he gone to court for it already?
So 6 days ago, a
Okay.
judge ordered him to get gambling addiction treatment. It still says that he faces up to 30 years in prison.
Mm.
Um,
So how much time do you think he's going to get for 16 years or 16 million? I'm
you
gonna
know,
guess. I'm gonna guess 8 years, and I feel like that's long. I think he's gonna get out on good behavior.
so I'm gonna guess less than that, and here's why. If the judge ordered that he gets gambling addiction treatment, it I'm guessing the judge has a little bit of compassion for him.
Hmm.
He didn't just say, "Okay, well, we can't wait for trial for you to be sentenced." So if the judge is having some compassion on him right now, I think it might be a lighter sentence.
Okay. No, I could see that reasoning.
Just a guess, but I don't know. But wow, that's sad. It's
Hmm.
sad all the way around because you can clearly see that he he is a fraudster, but he has a problem. Like it's got to be a bad problem for you to do all the things that he did and for you to lose that much money. That just I get it that it's not yours, quote unquote. And sometimes you can detach your feelings from stuff when it's not yours. But just seeing that much money go out of anybody's pocket makes me cringe. It's like, oh God, that's a lot.
Oh, well, yeah. And now we're going to probably start seeing this at the level of college because of NIL being changed.
Yep.
Um, I just heard something, and I can't believe they're doing it. The Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association. They're actually considering allowing the high school sports people to get NIL money.
It, okay. So I don't know if I really have a problem with it because when you're a teenager, you work, right?
Mhm.
But without safeguards, this could be bad.
I guess the thing that I take a look at it is I can understand college because the colleges make so much money off of those players. Like I can understand that. At high school, I'm a little kind of iffy about it only because are we going to be giving some of these players a false sense of potential that they're going to make it big? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes, and the answer to
here's
your question is
wow.
yes, we are going to do that,
Mhm,
but that's when it takes somebody to really ground them. Here's the other thing too, I'll tell you a little secret. A lot of the colleges don't make money off of sports. You can look at their reports.
mhm,
The NCAA actually will compile a list and they'll
mhm.
show you only about 10 to 14 of the colleges really make money off of sports. It's not a money making venture for the college itself based on the money that they spend. But even in college, we are setting a false expectation. I'll give you an example. Take women's basketball. Now,
Mhm,
there are a lot of women's basketball players, or not a lot, but a few, and we know who the good ones are, right? The really good ones.
mhm.
They're making more money from NIL than they will make if they were to go to the WNBA.
Well, Caitlin Clark's a great example.
There you go. She is a perfect example. And when you look at it, um, she really does have something that the others don't have. She has athletic ability, but she also has this really likability. Like when you see her, you just like her, you know?
Okay.
So, we're paying people based on personality, which that happens anyway, even in the workplace. But what happens when that personality falters, or what happens when the season is no longer over and you have the sport combined with the personality? Um,
Dennis
you
Rodman
know,
made a lot of money not having a great personality at times.
but he does have a great personality. He's the villain. He's the person
Oh,
you love
that's
to
true.
hate. So he
And
plays
Larry
that
Bird.
role very well.
Mhm.
Think about professional wrestling. The WWE, as it's known now. When I was a kid, it was the WWF. And
Yep.
you couldn't tell me nothing. Hulk Hogan was the man, the Undertaker, Sting. You think about all of these characters. And then when Ric Flair joined the WWF, woo! I mean, come on. The
Yeah.
personalities is what, and then more recently in our time, though, well, I guess more recently, The Rock.
Yep. I
You
think
think
he's
about
back.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Mhm.
It's the personalities.
Yep.
So, yeah. Now Stephanie is saying that would be a mess in high school. They're minors and parents could end up using the money and getting into trouble. At least in college, they're adults. Yeah, but are they really adults? No, I'm just kidding. But no, it would be this. Oh, wait a minute. Randy Orton. I forgot about him. People are gonna start mentioning all their favorite wrestlers now. But that would be no different from the child actors. If your
Oh
parents are
yeah.
crappy enough to spend your money in a bad way, I think they would do it whether it's sports or acting. But yeah,
Oh,
Randy Orton, that brings back memories.
yeah. I just
Oh,
watched the documentary special on that about Nickelodeon.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was sad.
Oh, wait a minute, I got another one for you. Anybody remember the Junkyard Dog?
Uh-huh. I was gonna
Yeah.
list China. Throw a woman in there.
Okay, yeah,
Rest,
no,
rest in peace. Rest in peace.
she was actually one of the best around. Speaking of China, there was Triple H,
Yep.
the Heart Foundation. Oh, yeah. But these people got paid because they were decent athletes, but they had good personalities. Anybody remember Mick Foley, Mankind?
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Mick Foley. He was the crazy one, wasn't he?
Yo, he was super duper crazy.
Oh man.
Then you had Bobby the Brain Heenan, the mastermind behind a lot of nonsense. He wasn't even a wrestler, but he got paid. Why? Because of personality. So yeah, I think, I think personality has a lot to do with it. But you know what? We're coming up on that 1 hour mark, and Christine. Oh,
Yeah.
never mind. We just crossed that path. Never mind.
What?
Well, so I can't play the replay if it's above an hour,
Oh.
unless I get another streaming plan, which I might just pony up the money and get another streaming plan. Because sometimes we go over that 1 hour threshold. So it's past now. So, it
I
is
mean,
what
we
it
went
is.
a little off topic, but hey.
Off topic, kind of, but I think it still hits home on the point of there's a lot of money to be made in sports, and athletes and actors, you got to have some sound control surrounding your money because you can get fleeced. Your money can be taken fairly easily, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's to a point where you make so much too that you're not really worried about it to a certain extent.
And
I
this
don't have
is
that problem.
definitely not going to be the last time that this happens. And
Right.
this is the thing too. Think about all these stories that we talk about that we know about. There's fraud going on right now in some professional athlete, actor, singer going on right now that the amount of money might be so minuscule over a length of time, nobody's going to find it.
I think
Doesn't
they
everyone
should
kind of
hire
remember it?
us. They should hire us to come in and audit for them.
I'd be perfectly okay with that.
Auditors to the stars. There's the new business. Anybody ready to join me? We can do like Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me?
Show me the money.
Show me the money. There's some people who have no idea what we're talking about. They'll look it
I'm
up on
not that
YouTube though.
old.
I didn't
I
I
am.
didn't
I
say
am old.
I didn't say you were old. I just said that there are quite a few people. Now, I'll be the first to admit it. I am old and I'm okay with it.
I'll get
I'm
there.
okay with it.
When did
I'm
that
going to
movie?
slow down so you can catch up.
I don't know if I want to do that. I did
Uh-oh,
okay
I see.
this last year. Oh God, I was 13 when that movie came out.
Whoa. What year was that?
96.
Uh-oh, you don't want to know how old I was. I'd already graduated
You would have been
college.
23.
Something like that. I'd already graduated college.
Oh, dang.
So yeah,
I
if
wasn't even
anybody
in high
wants
school yet.
if anybody wants to start the accounting firm to the stars with me, send me your resume. I'm just joking. Don't anybody listening to this, please don't do that. That
Are you trying to start your own HR department?
Oh my goodness. Stephanie said
Starting
she
your
was
own HR?
18.
Dang. That was a good
Yeah.
movie though.
Wasn't it? You know?
But yeah, I wonder if Tom Cruise has ever been ripped off.
You know what? If he's been ripped off, the person or people who did it probably paid a heavy penalty. Look, don't rub it in, Daniel. Daniel's saying he wasn't even born at that point.
He's like, I
And,
wasn't even a twinkle in my mom's eye. No
you know,
thought.
I think I'm doing pretty well considering my age. I'm holding up okay.
Oh, I think you are, because I never would have put you at that age.
Well, and I think too, though, even when it comes to our profession, keeping up on what's happening, skills. I mean, if you look, heck, I'm the mastermind behind all of this stuff here. I run all the
Yeah.
stuff behind the scenes. You know, um, still working on that cybersecurity certification. So, and I say this a lot. It is not. It's not about your age in life. It's about your stage in life. you know.
Right.
Some people are ready to do certain things at a certain stage that other people that are far older than them aren't ready to do, and then vice versa. Some people that are older are still doing and can do certain things that other people aren't doing at their stage. So it's not about the age, it's about the stage. My grandmother used to tell me that, and she had me doing all kinds of, she had me thinking I could do a whole bunch of stuff because she would drill that into my head. She would say, "Baby, it's not about your age. It's not about your age."
I didn't start college till I was 26.
There you go.
So for any of the
I,
young professionals that might be watching that feel you're behind the times on things, just take your time, keep chugging through it.
yeah. I didn't get my master's degree until 2014, I think. I think it was
I
2014.
I got
I
my
don't know how old I
master's.
was then.
Oh my God, it was 10 years ago. But
See, there you go.
I went straight through. So I went and got my associates, my bachelor's, and my master's. So while
Oh
having
yeah.
children and working full time.
Woo.
I have zero effort like that now at this age. I did it once. I'm done. I'm burnt out. And then doing my CIA. Holy cow, that was crazy.
Oh, that's right. You just got your CIA. So
Yeah,
that's
just
what
got
I'm talking about. And Stephanie says it. Lifelong learner, always listening and learning, never too old. But also almost never too young, too. I think there's the other side of that too, where we have to encourage younger people to step into certain roles and to do certain things too, because some of them can do it and some of them can't. Just like when you get older, some certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. So I really believe in that works both ways.
right.
So all right. So if you're just joining us, we are about to end, but man, this was a fantastically disastrous tale of a baseball player who's been robbed of a lot of money, but also just I could see where his trust in people is probably going to be in the tank for a short period of time until he meets people who can give him back faith in humanity, because someone who was close to him working as his interpreter because he did not speak English
Right.
um, stole a lot of money from him. Now here's Thomas. Now I'll let this end with this. Thomas said he changed careers and went back to school at 26, and then also started his business at 37. So yeah, we live in a time now where people were going to be flip flopping quite a bit. I mean, if you look at me, I still do auditing, but a lot of what I do is training and public speaking. So
Yeah.
and podcasting, obviously. So um, anyway,
I just work.
just that's a lot. I mean, it takes a lot to work nowadays, especially with people looking for jobs and being laid off. It's a tough market out there. I would say when you look at Thomas and I trying to work for ourselves, working for ourselves, that it's very hard because it's a hustle trying to get clients, trying to keep clients. And speaking of that, by the way, I just came back from the Philadelphia IIA chapter, did a really good keynote speech for them. Check my LinkedIn. You'll see they're bragging about it. So that means that if your IIA chapter is looking for a keynote speaker, general session speaker, or an all-day trainer, shoot me an email, rob@thatauditguy.com. Just shoot me an email. We've got some good sessions for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to sell yourself, right? I mean, nobody else is
Right.
going to shoot my horn for me. All right. Anything else you want to say, Christine?
Have an amazing weekend. Thank you again for having me on.
Any time. And thank you guys for joining us every Friday. We're here. Join us next week. See you.
Bye.